everyone. Welcome to a playful edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good pal, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who today I'm considering a hostile witness. I give you the BRENT.
I accept that.
Yeah, you should accept it.
You know what? I think we should just have a little bit of a Coco show and call it a day.
Show? You got the wires crossed, my friend.
Get me out of playing.
Take off. You know, before we get into all that PlayStation talk, I would like to take a step back and reflect for a moment. For this is our 150th episode of ARG. I believe you've been around for about 130 of these episodes.
134 of them.
It feels like every bit of that to me. So, as we look back over the distant horizon, what have been your highlights and lowlights in your ARG experience, the BRENT?
I think, to be completely honest, there have been a lot more highlights than lowlights. Some of the emulation, getting the emulations running, the FM Towns Marty instantly comes to mind. That thing is a beast, and I never want to play it ever again. Not to say the system is bad, but emulating it is just right out. I've really enjoyed doing the shows, though. I enjoy learning new systems. I enjoy the community that has come around us and really built us up. Because let's be honest, Aaron, we wouldn't be at 150 if we didn't have good people cheering us on.
That's true. Because they've had to put up with a lot of your shenanigans, I might add, over the 134 episodes. You know, as we look back, and I will say, I looked through our playlist on YouTube and looked over some of those old shows, and we have done some wacky stuff. And one of the things I do enjoy, and I never enjoy it until after I've done it, but one of the things I always enjoy is trying all these cockamamie machines. I've learned so much from doing the show. You know, and it's glorious. And one thing I've also learned is that no matter what system you pick, anything from the NASCOM all the way up to the PlayStation, there's always some group of people that know everything about it, and you know nothing. And so you wander in like a blind man, feeling around, trying to get some help. But most of the communities are real receptive. Another thing I like about this show is every week, I wonder how many people are going to take the time to watch it, because our numbers are up and down like a yo-yo, depending on which particular system this week that we are covering. And I think it's a testament, especially to a show that's effectively on a network that at the time when we started was almost entirely based on the Amiga, that our top couple of shows, our very top show was the TRS-80 Model 100, and by a long shot, which that was a super obscure system. And our Amigos fights episode, which really wasn't Amigos, it was me and you. Although technically you're a sub-Amigo, I guess. But our Atari versus Amiga episode was right up there at the top as well. I had a lot of fun with that one. So we've had good success with some of this stuff. We've had a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to another 150 big episodes. The downside being I've got to put up with you for another 150 shows. That might be kind of tough.
I can only assume when you say sub-Amigo, you mean that I travel underwater. Yeah. Because that's the only way I'll take it and won't be offended.
Every moment with you is like being underwater. I'm joking. I'm begging for air, but none comes. So
now, Aaron, I want to do a quick announcement before we start the show. At 150, it just happened to line up with something I wanted to do. I've been wanting to do for a long time, and things have finally fell into place. We are going to do an Amigos ARG Presents giveaway, and we are going to give away 3 lovely items.
We are?
One item we're going to give away is I have a lovely ARG lanyard, brand new, and we are going to give that to a lucky winner over the weeks. I also have a coin slot, if I can get it in camera here, a coin slot keychain that lights up from New Wave that I want
Those are
to give
cool.
away.
I've seen those. Very fancy.
And then for the grand prize, we are going to be giving away a brand new, sealed, ready to go Dragon's Lair Mini. This is a 1/6 scale machine. And I was lucky enough to get 2 of these when they briefly went back on sale. One for myself to keep, which is this one. And then I bought one specifically for the giveaway that we're going to be doing over the coming months. And let me tell you, Aaron, this thing is a absolute beaut.
It looks great. I've heard nothing but good things about those.
The screen on this thing is out of this world.
It looks awesome.
And they have a few of these machines, right? And I wanted to get something. First of all, Dragon's Lair, iconic arcade game. No doubt about that. But I wanted to get a mini that was actually playable. You know, they have some of the Street Fighter 2 minis, and everything's too small, in my opinion, for that kind of stuff. But this is a very playable mini. And the way we are going to do this is over the next several weeks. This is not going to be something that instantly happens. We are going to be picking people out of our community. And we are going to be picking at random. We're going to be picking people out of Twitch chat. We are going to be picking people out of YouTube comments. We are going to be picking people out of our Twitter following. We are going to be picking people out of people who will send us emails, out of Discord, as well as we're going to be holding a few contests, high score challenges, quiz shows, all of this to fill up a wheel. And we are going to spin that wheel 3 times to give away all 3 prizes. Completely free. I'm willing to ship these things anywhere in the world. The only thing the end user has to worry about is if they've got a VAT tax on their side. I'm going to send it as a gift because that's honestly what it is. That would be something they'll have to pick up on their end. More details to come. But if you aren't subscribed to the YouTube, or if you don't watch us on Twitch, or you're not on our Twitter listings, be sure to do all that. And I'm going to be pulling those names out at random, loading up a wheel. Like I said, we're going to have a few contests, stuff like that, and give away all of these magnificent goodies to give back to the community that has supported us so much throughout the years, Aaron. Through 150 episodes, they've really always been there for us, and I wanted to give back, and I know you do too. And that's
very
what we're
good, very well said, and a monumental gift, if I may say, Brent. Those things are awesome, super awesome. All those things. I've even got my lanyard over here, which is a pretty cool lanyard too. So that's great. That looks like about 10 spots you'll need to fill in that wheel. So that should be.
I'm thinking 12 because we will also be introducing a different wheel for the prizes, but that will be way down the line. We'll get to that one.
This is all news to me, folks. So good stuff. Am I eligible to win the Dragon's Lair?
You are not.
What the heck? Screwed again, everyone. That's great. So stay tuned for more details. By the way, Brent, tell the people what the Twitter handle is.
ARG
That's right.
Presents.
And then you've also got our YouTube is Amigos Retro Gaming, 3 words. So pop in and see us, please, and we'd love to have you. Very good, Brentster. Very good. I love it, man. By the way, happy 150, my friend.
Yes, happy 150 to you. Half your age, and we're already there.
Off. So, with that out of the way, let's get to the particulars this week. We spun the wheel, Brent. We made the deal, and wham, bam, it's a PlayStation. There was some debate on whether this was retro enough. I say it's too retro. It's super retro, man. You look back on this stuff, we've covered systems that were at least nearly as old as this. So, by God, and we also did Android games, enough said. So, we will not be bound by the normal constraints of retro. Play whatever we want. And the wheel decided this week we're going to do some PlayStation action. Now, I must begin our conversation on the PlayStation with the usual question, which is, did you own a PlayStation?
I did not. I have never
You're
owned a
kidding me.
PlayStation. Nope.
It's you've never you don't have one in the house now, just sitting around.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I mean that's possible.
I kid you not when I say I own probably 4 or 5 PlayStations. People just kept giving them to me, man, and so I've got the gray ones, plus I've got one of the little ones as well. Plus I've also got the PlayStation Mini. So I've got a whole slew of PlayStations and a whole probably 20 of those joysticks with and without the analog control. So the PlayStation got real cheap for whatever reason. I guess because they made so many, but they were easy to come.
Yeah, there's millions of them out there, literally.
Back in the day. Now I will say, I didn't own one originally when they came out, but my buddy owned one and bought it right at launch. And it's funny, this just came up on Amigos the other night, but we would go to his house. He had gotten a projector, and we would play. Not Toker. So we'd play Battle Arena Toshinden on it, and we would play just whatever we could get hold of that were available at launch. We played, and it was real cool to see it on the big screen. So my memories of the PlayStation are sort of warm and fuzzy. Despite the fact that maybe some of the original launch titles weren't the best. Oh, Ridge Racers, another one we used to play up on the big screen. It was a lot of fun. So let's get into the PlayStation a little bit, Brentster. I did a little look-back research on this bad boy. So, of course, developed by Sony, but they had a lot of help, which we'll get into. This thing debuted all the way back in Japan in December of 94. People don't think about that. That's a long time ago. 94, Brent. It doesn't even seem real.
Still in high school.
And in North America in 95, September of 95, and Europe same time, and Australia the same time. So Japan had quite a leap in terms of when this got launched. This thing originally priced at $299 famously. And was CD-ROM based with a R3000 CPU running at 33.8 megahertz, 2 megs of RAM, a meg of video RAM. So the specs weren't any huge shakes, were they? I mean, they of course what the chips, what they put together ended up being a pretty powerful 3D system, didn't it?
Well, it was definitely powerful
Absolutely.
for the time.
Now I've read some stuff here that hey, listen, I am Amigo Aaron. I love the Amiga. Yeah.
I've heard.
And so I'd heard this, but I didn't really know exactly what the depth, the width of it. So when Sony decided to get the PlayStation going, of course, famously they had tried to get in bed with Nintendo for a while, and so forth. But a long story short, they were out there trying to figure out what to do because they're new to the game.
Yep.
So they had no developers working for them to develop titles for their machine that they were working on. So they went out and bought the famous company Psygnosis. Psygnosis became SCE Liverpool. They paid $48 million for Psygnosis. Now Psygnosis, of course, known by me for their incredible Amiga titles. Some were more flash than they were substance, but they were really a very classy outfit that had a good rep. Now this, I knew they were in bed with Psygnosis. I knew they'd bought them. I didn't know this though. So when they bought Psygnosis, among other things, of course, they developed software for them. They actually played a vital role in creating the original development kits for the PlayStation as well, which I thought was kind of neat. So Psygnosis really was a big player when it came to the original PlayStation. I looked up, I don't know. I know you didn't own one of these. Did you play that many games on the old PlayStation?
Yeah, I really did. In college, we had 2 main systems in the fraternity house where I lived for a while. We had an N64 and we had a PS1. And the PlayStation didn't get nearly as much play for party games. And probably because, 2 joysticks over 4, we could get more people around the Nintendo. But when it came to people just kind of playing games by themselves, the PlayStation was definitely the system of choice. And for myself as well, I played quite a few games on it. You know, at the time, I was over the console wars things. I didn't think one system, was better than the other just because of its name. But I particularly enjoyed Nintendo 64 things more at the time. Not to say that the PlayStation does not deserve its place in history. It absolutely does. But I was always more of a Nintendo style of game guy. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time with the PlayStation, but it's a beast of the machine, and you can never understate how important it was to gaming to add really a challenger to the mix, and the new guy coming out and really kicking butt was a thing to behold.
I looked at this the exact opposite way. In fact, I still sort of look at it this way. I never considered the N64 a great machine at all. I mean, it's got a handful of really good titles, but a lot of it, I just thought they dropped the ball on it. I mean, and one of the reasons that it looked so weak in comparison to the PlayStation, in my opinion, was the fact that was the media choice. Obviously, the PlayStation, and you can say what you will about its 3D, and I'll get to that in a minute, but it had full motion video. It had audio, CD tracked audio out the yin yang. Things that the Nintendo 64 just could physically do, but didn't have a media to support, and those were huge things.
Oh, plus sure. But I don't agree with that. I don't think those were huge things. I think here's the thing, Aaron, and I know you are not a fan of Nintendo-style games for the most part.
I like Nintendo-style games.
I'm talking.
Those aren't Nintendo-style. We're looking at Final Fantasy on the PlayStation, and I don't like that either. Same thing.
Well, that's a completely different style. Anyway, the name Nintendo usually means pretty top-notch games, and even though the Nintendo 64 had a ton of first-party support, it didn't have a ton of third-party support, which is a hindrance in my opinion. The games that came out on the Nintendo 64 were a lot of top flight games. I would say probably 3 or 4 of my favorite games of all time came from the Nintendo 64. So I think it is just a matter. It's an opinion. There's not a right or a wrong, because the PlayStation was a huge selling system with tons of top-notch games. Tons of games that probably couldn't have been done on any other system. So I'm not saying the PlayStation was better or worse. I'm just saying I personally didn't play it as much.
I will say 2 things here. First, I think the PlayStation's got way, way, way more good games than the N64. But on the flip side, it's got at least 10 times as many bad games. Because unlike Nintendo's classic seal of approval, which again, that's sketchy at best, the PlayStation had no such seal. They would approve you for anything. Now, the benefit of the CD format was that anybody could release games for it, and anyone did. And so you had everything that ranged from, like, top-flight titles to stuff that they looked like they raised in a barn. It was horrible. And so...
Yeah, both systems had their shovelware, but the PlayStation had a ton of it. But it had tons more games overall.
Just to play in Nintendo's yard, it cost you. Where in the PlayStation yard... Any jerk could wander in, winos, wild dogs. You never knew what you were going to get. We'll say one thing about that era, and specifically the PlayStation, but this also, of course, the Nintendo 64 would fall into this as well. At the time, that 3D looked awesome. You're like, holy smokes, 3D. You look back, and a lot of these games have aged horribly. And the funny thing is, I tend to be more judgmental about 3D games than I do like 8-bit titles. I don't know why that is, but it's just I don't know what it is that makes me think that those titles look so much worse. Clearly, like the worst 3D title would probably crush stuff on like or like an old 8-bit, like the Coco or something. But I always am very judgmental about the 3D stuff because a lot of it looks really bad. So.
Well, I think 3D has come so far. I mean, 3D now, it's incredible. It's like you're playing the CGI cutscenes from last gen. So, but I understand what you're saying. Stuff like Tomb Raider, and not just on the PlayStation, which is overall, the graphics are so sharp you can cut yourself.
I should say that when here comes Sony, they've never released a console. Then they released the PlayStation, and it stomped a mud hole in the competition, Brent. A mud hole.
Absolutely.
This thing sold, I believe, in excess. Yeah, here it is. Units sold 102 million units sold. That's a ton. That's a ton of units. That's why you can get these things so cheap. You know, just for fun and real quick, I got a list of the top 10 or so titles on the PlayStation, just to kind of look over them, Brent, and get your thoughts. And I'm just going to run through these real quick. Selling 6 million units, it was Metal Gear Solid, which was a pretty popular title.
Obviously, a great game.
That was a real unique game. And I remember me and you renting the original Metal Gear on the the NES back in the day.
It's totally different.
But I'm just saying, pretty wacky. Number 9, Tomb Raider 2, another Amiga developer Core. They sold 6.8 million. Of course, what can you say about Tomb Raider? It was great. Crash Bandicoot, which was sort of almost like the unofficial mascot for the PlayStation. And I will say Crash Team Racing is one of my favorites on PS2. It sold 6.82 million. This one surprised me, Brett. Argonaut. This one, because it also developed against the Amiga. This one was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. 8 million units on that one. Yeah.
Wow.
This one didn't surprise me because it was a huge franchise. Number 5, Tekken 3, which sold 8.3 million units. I personally, for the PlayStation, where Tekken really came into its own early, I like Tekken 2. That was my game. I thought that was an awesome game. Number 4, and here we go. Final Fantasy 8. That's right, 8. Who'd have thunk that?
Me.
I thought Final Fantasy 7 would be the big seller.
It's up there.
Final
Don't
Fantasy
worry.
8 with 8.6 million units. The Final Fantasies on the Sony cannot be under. It can't be. You have to appreciate the popularity of that, even if you don't like them. Number 3, another franchise that was synonymous with the Sony, Gran Turismo 2. Brent, 9.3 million units. Did you get into the Gran Turismos?
Not until San Andreas.
The number 2 best-selling game on the PlayStation, Final Fantasy 7. That's 2 Final Fantasies here in the top 4. It sold in excess of 10 million units. Pretty huge. You played that one. You beat that one, didn't you?
Oh yes.
And the number 1 selling game. Do you have a thought on the number 1 game?
See, I'm shocked there hasn't been a sports title yet.
Technically, Gran Turismo is a sports title.
Sorta. All right,
Gran
Turismo,
sports title. Number 1 game, 10.8 million game units sold on Gran Turismo, Brent. So, hey, listen.
Boy, that franchise fell off
that's
the
a
map.
top 10. That's kind of top heavy when it comes to the couple of these games. I mean, the Gran Turismo and Final Fantasy clearly ruled the day when it comes to the PlayStation. So there you go. So we had a multitude of choices when it comes to picking games this week. And I'm going to tell you, I'll lead the dance this week, Brent. And I will say this: I went into this and I was just like overwhelmed because I knew how big and creepy the PlayStation library is. I mean, it really is. One of the wackiest libraries in all of gaming, isn't it? I mean, it's insane what's out there, and there's a lot of straight up junk, but there's so many good titles. There's a lot of hidden gems. I discounted all that. I for some reason, I was going through a Cowboy Bebop, the Japanese anime. I was going through a thing this week. I was like, man, I'm going to see if there's a game based on Cowboy Bebop because I knew there was, and I looked at that game and I was disappointed in the game because it was like sort of a shooter, which is that's not what I would say it represents Cowboy Bebop, going around shooting, flying a spaceship. So then I thought, well, what other animes do I like? And so this is how I came to choose the game I choose because this is a pretty random game. I ended up choosing, Ghost in the Shell, Brent, for the PlayStation.
Yes.
Ghost in the Shell was one of my favorite shows. Now, we should get into what Ghost in the Shell is. I'm not going to get into, because it's a pretty deep show, but I'll get into exactly where it came from. So, there was a manga from a fellow named Masumi Shiro. Okay, and as most big mangas go, this got turned into a film, and the film was pretty well received, called Ghost in the Shell. I've seen the film, the dubbed for America version of Ghost in the Shell, and I was not the biggest fan. And one of the reasons I didn't like it was because I didn't like the voice acting in it. And thankfully for me, the voice actors all came back to do the game. But it was an interesting futuristic look at where technology and man have combined. And it's very futuristic, technology driven, still with a foot in reality, where there's lots of conflict. I mean, there's lots of stuff like hacker terrorists and people taking over each other's bodies and cyborgs and whatnot. The stuff I like, and of course you are following an outfit called Section 9, who is like a futuristic, like, special forces, basically. So I was really into the show that came after the movie, which is called Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. Love that show. One of my all-time favorite shows. So I'm a big fan of the material. And so when I saw this was a game, I had to jump on it. And of course, the popularity of the show and the movie spurned forward the game, although the game predates the Standalone Complex, but it basically was a game that was based on the movie to a certain degree. This was produced by Exact in Japan, and was released in Japan in 97, July, and then the rest of the world got it in later on down the line in 97, and Europe got it in 98. So what is this game? We're going to just jump right into it, because it doesn't appear anywhere else. In this game, you control, basically, you are in charge of a small, I guess the best way to describe this thing, Brett, would be like a small spider-like robot. I mean, you're actually in it. It's an outer shell, is what it is. And you go around and do missions, basically, for your outfit, for your basically they're policing missions. You're going around trying to stop terrorists and stuff. The little thing you're driving around in is called a Fuchikomi. Fuchikoma. It's it basically, when you get into it, you look like a dork. I mean, they show occasionally, they'll show someone popping out of one, and it looks like you're smashing yourself into almost like a clown car. It really is. It doesn't look comfy or sensible to be in these things. Plus, these things, it's funny in the show, these things have, and in this game too, they have their own little personalities, and they're real childlike in a weird way. It's very strange. They talk, and whatnot. But anyway, you're in one of these things, and basically this game is set up as in 12 missions, and then there's some training missions, and the whole game takes place inside these little robots, and your job is to go around and fulfill whatever obligations for that particular mission is. Some missions will have you going around and trying to find bombs. Some missions, there are missions where you have to go around just trying to kill enemies. There's missions that even take place as like an on-rail shooter in a weird way. So they do a decent job of kind of mixing it up through the 12 missions. You play a fellow who they simply refer to as the rookie, and you're part of the team, like a new recruit on the team. Now, the team, I've got to discuss the opening of this game before we get any further. If you watch the one of the trademarks of Ghost in the Shell is the Major. Okay, now the Major is sort of like the head studette of the group. All right, Major Matako Kusanagi, and she is. Most of the time they just call her the Major. Picture like the hottest anime chick you can find, wearing the sluttiest outfits you can find. And that's what she is. She's the world's hottest and most slutty cop. On the flip side, she's also a cyborg. So she's really, you're getting into a weird area here. It's never fully explained that I ever saw why she dresses like she does. I've never quite understood, because she's the only one. She wears outfits. There's an outfit she wears in this game. It is one of the stupidest outfits I've ever personally seen on anyone. It's sort of a combination of like a military bridal gown that's just, they strategically cut parts of it out. And so they're just parts of her hanging out, you know. But the opening of this game is one of the most bizarre openings in the history of cinematic openings. It shows, presumably it shows the Major like connected to her computer, and she's there in all of her hot glory, and I think she's controlling one of the little robots, and it shows the little robot doing all the stuff that the little robots can do, shooting stuff and climbing on walls and stuff. But apparently whatever it's doing is exciting the Major greatly, because she's gyrating and being tied up in the cabling of her computer and being super duper, like, super erotic opening for this. It makes no sense. For one thing, you're in the robot. No, so I don't know. I guess they just said, we're going to do the most raunchy opening for a game. I stared at this in disbelief. What did you think of the opening of this? I wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, it was so over the top, it became uncomfortable.
There's a couple scenes where there's one scene where you would swear to God that she was nude. Now, she's not nude. She often wears...
Yeah, she's in like a body
often wears
sock.
this, like, if you've seen the movie based on this, which I avoided that like the plague, but that cream colored suit that they have the Major wearing in the film, she wears that in the show as well. But I mean, it is I would say, of all the PlayStation games I've ever played, you will never find an opening that's more naughty than this one right here, especially for a game about robotic tanks. That makes no.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It sorta in a very small sense made sense because of the source material, but in a tune with the game, it made zero sense. It was actually it was somewhat off-putting, to be completely honest.
Listen, part of me loved it. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I know, but
it was
no
good.
sense.
And I will say, I mean, I watched the show a lot, right? And her hotness is all on display. I mean, she is the selling point of that show. But the funny thing about the show is it's a very incredibly deep, like super deep science fiction with a lot of stuff about about your ego and the resulting damage or situation involved. What is humanity? Some real deep questions, philosophical stuff. It just happens to be that the part of the questioning involves the hottest cyborg you've ever seen in skimpy clothes. So, it's very strange. If you're a fan of the show, I should mention that a lot of the people from the show appear in the little cutscenes. Of course, you've got the Major, you've got the Chief, Bato was in there, Saito, a bunch of people that you would see. Apparently they made about 10 minutes of additional animation for this, just for this game. So they had the full studio. In fact, the game was actually written by the same guy that wrote the movie. So I mean, this was his baby, basically. The animation studio also works on a lot of games, so this was not foreign territory to them. So that's all. Let's get to the actual meat of the game. So what are you doing? Your little tank is actually the star of the show in this, because when you control this tank, it is one of the most awesome experiences I've ever had. The little tanks are almost like like Spider-Man. They can just climb up and down everything, and they do it real cool. The system of combat in this, of course, this is a sort of an arcade action type game. So you're going around and you're shooting your machine guns, you're throwing grenades, and you're locking on with these sort of like missiles. It's very gratifying, and it's very smooth with the PlayStation controller. It really does a good job. You know right away that you're in for a treat. The star of this show, I mean, really, the whole game, the game is the tank, the engine that they use to make the tank. That's the whole game. Like this game, I have to say, it didn't throw any surprises at me. I didn't necessarily think it was like the best game I've ever played, but the fact that they had such a strong engine to play the little tank, that was the backbone of the game. I mean, really, it was almost like a one-trick pony, Brent. The soundtrack on this is highly regarded. Okay, I want to get into so you can understand the ambience of when you play this. So you'll get a mission. They send you in. Let's just say the mission is to go into sewers in pursuit of somebody. Okay, you take your tank down into the sewer, and the sewers would be like shaped like a hexagon, basically inside, like a long. They'd be like tubes that you could walk all around, and so you would even lose sort of your sense of what's up and down because the tank can go anywhere, and then you would fight a series of bad guys as you went through the tunnel. Sometimes they're little bots, sometimes they're people with guns, sometimes you're blowing up stuff on the wall, and then eventually at the end of the level that you would get to, you would be a boss battle. This is pretty much the way this game goes in almost all the levels. Even levels where they have you taking out bombs or taking out separate little areas, it's pretty much the same thing. So I would say the mission variance is there, but it's not like there's any great brilliance behind it. Much like the story of this, which is sort of famous for being sort of a convoluted mess. I guess the guy tried to come up with some stuff you could use for the video game, but it really doesn't make any sense. There's a couple times where the animation, the second the animation ends to introduce the level, they immediately change what you were going to do, which tells me that they probably drew the animation up before they actually finished the game. There's one point in particular where they're like, okay, ignore all that. We've got to go stop some terrorists. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What's going on? The boss battles are standard. Fight a big thing. There's some of the things fly. There's one boss that's sort of like a cloaked, and you have to kind of run around trying to fight him, which that was pretty neat. But for the most part, most of the battles are pretty standard, except for the ones on rails. There's a couple levels on rails. There's one where you're on a little boat, which I found amusing. They drop your Fuchicoma out of an airplane, and he's on a little boat, and he's in the water fighting people. And it's on rails, but you can spin all the way around and target stuff. And then there's one where the Fuchicoma is on the street, like hauling butt down this highway. And at the end boss, and that's a big semi truck, which I thought that was pretty cool too. So I'll give him credit on those. But I mean, again, I didn't think there was anything special. I mentioned the music earlier. The soundtrack to this, they got a lot of big players to do the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was not good, but people love the soundtrack. To me, it just seemed like something you could go get a Casio keyboard and just hit repeat on a beat you put down, and you bam, that's your song.
Good. I'm glad on one thing, if nothing else, we absolutely agree. Overrated soundtrack.
I mean, I was surprised how ballyhooed the soundtrack was, frankly.
Yeah. Because
I didn't think it was any great shakes, to be honest with you. So let me recap here. Are the bosses that big a deal? Not really. I mean, they're just pretty generic. Are the backgrounds that appealing? Not really. They're pretty standard fare. I didn't see anything that really blew my mind. I will say I like the highway part, but that was the only part I thought was really cool. And at the end, you go up a construction site that's kind of interesting. Is the story arc that good? Not really. It sounds deeper than it is, but I mean, it's just not that. It's not that great. It's cool to see the anime.
It's ridiculous that they keep using the "oh gosh, we're gonna get ambushed" trope over and over and over. You get ambushed like 6 times during the game.
Ambush is terrorism, where the
story was dumb.
I'm not gonna. The story was odd. Let's just put it that way. And disjointed. Also, you can get lost real easy. There's a thing to guide you around.
Oh no!
I got lost in the sewers, like in it.
Why? There was an arrow.
It didn't help
exactly
but I got there, but I got lost. I did use save states on this because I'm not good, but I did manage to get to the 3rd level, so I thought that was pretty good, all things considered. This game is considered easy. It's also considered short. It's got 12 missions.
It is.
A good player could beat this game in probably 3 hours. Someone like me would probably think
an hour.
No,
hour.
No.
No, there's 1
hour.
Right,
if you're the stud of all men, you can do it in an hour.
No. I'm saying there's an hour of, if you begin the game and you've played it, before, you've beaten it before, you can get through the entire game in an hour, no question.
I can't. So you're asking, why is Aaron going to recommend this? Because I am, and I'm going to recommend it strictly on the basis of the fighting engine. It is outstanding, the play engine. It's fun to drive your little Fuchicoma around. It's fun to climb the walls. The thing is super maneuverable. It can jump. It goes up and down stuff real quick, and it lets you play in your own special way. And that's what makes it fun. if you're a Ghost in the Shell fan and you want to see some of the special animation, I guess that's a reason to play it. But again, it didn't blow me away, to be honest with you. If you're a fan of the music, I don't think you're going to do it there. So basically, come for the gameplay and don't stay for much else. My opinion. What were your overall thoughts on this, Brent?
I enjoyed this game.
Okay.
I agree with almost everything you said. Music subpar, story is
Goofy
a train
would
wreck.
be my response to that one.
The visuals are okay. I mean, they're very for the era, okay. However, the gameplay on this is extremely fun, and it instantly reminded me of Descent, if you remember that game, and where you could have free control of, you know, going up on the walls and stuff. That was a lot of fun. I wish things like your missile lock was a little bit faster. Because of that, I hardly ever used missiles, because most enemies will die from the machine guns. Your guns will sort of lock onto your target, Doom style. If something's a little bit above you or a little bit below you and you shoot, you're still going to hit your target.
Because I'm not what we call like the best aim, you know.
It is unfortunate that they didn't do more with this engine than they did. I think that this engine could have been great. I think this thing could have done great things. It's unfortunate that they spent so little time on the graphics. Everything is very gray, and the textures are very boring. The action is fun, and it's fun because the engine is fun. It should have been so much better. I would say if you were interested in Ghost in the Shell, play this game. Go and emulate it. Buy it. I'm sure it's cheap. If you are interested in the gameplay but not interested in Ghost in the Shell, go play Descent. It actually gives you a little more freedom of movement, and you're still getting the same feel as you do in this game, in my opinion. And it's a better game. It uses the levels better. Now Descent, you're in a spaceship, not a spider crab.
I don't see that. I mean, I can understand why you're getting that, but I don't think they play the same at all. To be honest with you.
Oh, I think it's fair because you're in so many little corridors. Also, this game, if you don't, this is like Circle Strafe, the boss game. Every boss, you just get the lure of the boss to the center, and then you circle
How far did you get through this, by the way? I gotta ask. Oh, wow.
Stage 4.
The bosses, I will say, the bosses are sort of, I didn't think they were that great, but it is kind of fun to, I could actually beat a boss pretty handily, and I was pretty happy with myself because that always happened to me. I will say, the controls, the strafing, you're right. I mean, it's strafe-orama. And I only use the missile locks. I would mostly use on the bosses when you had just a few minutes of downtime when the boss was doing something. You could lay in some missiles on him. But yeah, you're right. The machine gun does a pretty good job anyhow, and occasionally throwing out a grenade. This game, like I said, it was a fun game. The people that made this made a game called Jumping Flash. Have you ever played that? I'd heard about it. It was like a big deal. And so this was sort of the culmination of the experience they got on that game. It's what I read. This game, I didn't know this until I looked into it, but this game is very well respected and is considered like a big-time hidden gem on the PlayStation. So there you go.
I mean, it's unfortunate that they didn't do more. And I'm not saying they weren't or were not true to the source material. I'm not enough of a Ghost in the Shell fan to know. But I thought the story was pretty goofy. But boy, that engine, man, it was good. It's really good.
One thing that struck me as strange when I got this is the fact that you don't play as the Major, who's the big #1 character. You don't play as any of the main characters. And I read that this was done on purpose because they wanted to market this game for adults. Boy, howdy, did they market it for adults after that opening.
Well, that's
but they
dumb.
didn't want the Major to be like a Tomb Raider style character, which I think that's probably why this game didn't do all that great. I think this game really, I'm not sure the license did this game any favor. I may have not even licensed it, but that's just me. So get this.
I agree. I think it hurt it.
Review wise, this thing did okay. I found a ton of reviews for it. Edge Magazine gave it 7 out of 10. EGA gave it 7.25 out of 10. Game Fan gave it 87%. GameSpot 7.3. IGN 8 out of 10. Next Gen 3 out of 5. So pretty good scores for the game. And I would say that those scores are accurate. I would put it in that 7 out of 10 area personally. I thought it was pretty good. Now
I
get
agree.
this. You mentioned that the eBay. I looked the prices up on eBay, and I had this feeling that maybe this might be a pricier game because it didn't sell that well, and because of the subject matter, because of the opening, and I was dead on. This sold recently. Okay, these aren't like I didn't dig these up. This recently sold for $76, $85, $112, and $176, and the disc alone sells for $50. So this right here.
Yeah, don't go play
this right here
that.
is big money action. So if you basically come for the erotic opening, stay for the game. That's my quick quick review of the Ghost in the Shell game. Quite a bizarre and wacky game, but that engine was top shelf. Come for that. It was great.
Absolutely.
So, Brentster, that was my offering this week, Ghost in the Shell. What do you got for us this week?
I wanted to pick something that the PlayStation wasn't necessarily known for, but had some incredible versions of puzzle games. And I went with One Piece Mansion. Not to be confused with the One Piece anime. Has nothing to do with that.
That's what I thought it was until you mentioned it. I was like, my God, One Piece. Oh, no.
No. I don't know why they named it that.
Bad name. Yeah.
Here we are. This is a puzzle game developed and published by Capcom. It was released June 2001 in Japan, and then September and November in North America and Europe, all still in 2001. This game, of course, plots for puzzle games, really not important. This has you playing as Polpo, a little Japanese anime character who runs a hotel, a successful renting business. And your sister has been kidnapped. And the only way to get her back is to build nice hotels so the person who kidnapped her will respect
now, wait a minute.
you. I don't know.
Wait a minute. You're underselling. You're underselling this opening here. I want to rewind. Speaking of stupid openings, they introduced this opening. You've got Popo, or whatever his name is, and his sister. And the character you play looks like an evil jerk. Like, that's his premise.
Yeah.
Someone went to the Amiga School of Mascot building to get this guy. It's like, let's make our lead character an evil jerk. He looks like a landlord kid, basically. And his sister's like, why won't you play with me? Why won't you play with me? And he's sort of no-selling her. And I'm like, how old is this guy that runs this apartment complex? He's got a little sister who wants to play with him. And they look the same size. All of a sudden, like, this sister gets beamed onto, like, a ship. And then there's a evil villain who's like, oh, the fact that you've got a successful apartment building makes me angry. So you've got to perform 7 tasks to get your sister back, or just admit that I'm better, basically. And your jerk is such a jerk that he just won't admit that they're better. He's going to go out and perform the 7 tasks. The opening for this was one of the stupider things and more baffling things I've ever seen. Carry on.
That's right. So you run an apartment building, and what you have to do is place tenants in a way that they will not stress out other tenants. Basically, you have tenants that will produce bad stress, and you have tenants that are pleasant to be around and produce healing stress. And it happens in a 8-way star. Your tenants can affect people above, below, left, and right, and the diagonals. So you have to position your tenants in a way that they won't get a lot of stress, because stress builds up, and once they are too stressed up, they will leave, and you'll lose that tenant. and you actually play in weeks. Every 4 weeks, all of your tenants pay you money, and then you use that money to build more to your apartment and get more tenants to come to your building. That's the game. Now, the extra added spice is the Syndicate Five, which is the evil organization that kind of is kidnapped your sister, will come and take up residence in your building, and they will actually come out of their room, go to other rooms, and try to mess with your tenants and raise their stress level to make them leave. So while you're placing your tenants in your building, sometimes you have to run your little guy around and yell at the bad guys and make them go back to their room. Or they'll start fires, and you'll have to grab the fire extinguisher and put out the fires. So there is some action elements to the game, as well as the puzzle element of the game of positioning your tenants in a way that they won't stress the other tenants out. It's a very, very unique game. And the reason why I wanted to play this is this sounds very board gamey to me. Positioning your tenants in such a way that even you can have one that's causing stress, right? As long as you have someone else healing that stress. And getting them all positioned is very board game-esque, in my opinion. Building your building, you have to build elevators to go up and down, and of course that costs money. And if you run out of money, you can't switch where your tenants live, which makes it so if someone's in a stressful situation, you can't get them out of that. So you always have to keep a little bit of money in reserve. A incredibly unique take on the puzzle game that I personally thoroughly enjoyed. The graphics, all the tenants have sort of this animation of where they're causing stress, and some of them are just big brutes, right? That all they do is cause stress to other people. And some of them are these loving neighbors that just heal stress everywhere. So it's really kind of crazy. What did you feel of this, Aaron? How far did you get into it? How many tasks did you complete? And did you enjoy it?
This is one goofy game, okay? I knew this is a complex game, all right? And yet, I played this game for several hours, all right, for real. And I got the last level I successfully completed was the one where you have to build your building to make it 15 stories tall.
Okay,
so I don't know how far in that is. Now, I want you to realize I got that far, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to figure out what was going on all the time. For starters, when you put the building together, you can make it so your landlord can't get to some of the floors because he has to use the elevator.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful where if you accidentally put something somewhere, you could hose yourself. You could have to take stuff out. It kept flashing a message on the screen that said, it always said, you're almost out of money. And I thought to myself, thank God this doesn't happen in real life, because I would be seeing that message all the time. But it comes up a lot, and so it's infuriating because you're waiting for the rents to come in. It is, I mean, as far as puzzle games go, I don't know if this is any good because I did not understand what I was doing. I knew how to build rooms, I knew how to move rooms, and I knew how to position elevators. When it comes to the people romping around, I could get my little guy to come up there and yell at them. So I assumed I was doing the right thing. But, I mean, this game, there is no hand-holding at all. There's no how to figure it out. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't help me at all.
It explains to you before you start the game what you
can't remember that, and when reading it makes no sense because you don't have any context. I just sat there looking at that.
I don't agree with that.
Trust me.
Okay.
When you play this game the first time or the second time, you're going to be completely baffled. It does have a little chart that shows you your building as it's being built. I found the game. There's certainly a game in here. I mean, if you grasp it, I'm sure you could find some joy in it, and the little characters and stuff. The art style is unique. Capcom did this one, and so it's they're not going to slouch on the art. But it's also it's pretty repetitive. Like you have a lot of the same guys. I would like to see lots more people occupy the rooms, but I guess that's part of the puzzle element, as opposed to being something that'd be fun to look at. I thought this is a tough one for me to call, given the fact that I had no idea what I was doing. But even not knowing what I was doing, I did get fairly far in the game, I think.
You got to the third stage.
And how many stages are there? 12 or something like that? 7?
And there's an endless mode.
Yeah, I did try the endless mode, and I didn't like that at all. I like the story mode a lot better. Plus, you don't get that awesome opening scene where you, which is so. I would give this game. Listen, I'm not gonna play it again. I'm not gonna lie to you, but if you're a puzzle fan and you're looking for something really, really out of left field, this might be your baby. It's got saves after every round, which is fine, which is what I did. And it was interesting. It was not usual. I'll go there. How's that?
If you are looking for a single player, there is no multiplayer in this. If you are looking for a single player puzzle game that breaks the mold, that gives you something new to think about, I think this is an excellent game. I think that it's very playable, and the beginning stages are set up in a way that the game starts with some people already in your building, and stages 1 and 2 are set up that no one is stressed out at the beginning. Starting from stage 3 onward, the initial setup is someone is stressed or several people are stressed, and you have to move them around to get them to where they need to won't be stressed.
You can tell when the stressed ones are out there.
I think that's,
like sumo wrestlers that practice in their room. People go crazy.
Yeah,
you can tell when they're pissed off.
And the reason why you were able to complete stages 1 or 2, where it's set up already for victory. And the reason why you died at stage 3 is you had to know what was going on to fix the problems that were presented. I think this is an okay game. I would recommend emulating it if you have an itch for a puzzle game that you haven't been able to scratch because you haven't found anything that fit. This might fit. As for a casual fan of puzzle games, though, I wouldn't waste the time on this. If it's up somewhere, give it a play. But it is just complicated enough and just manic enough that you have to sit down and work with it for a little while to get good at it.
Very good. We did get, and believe it or not, we did get a Discord review on this one, stunningly. In fact, it's our own John Bodovkar-Schaller. He writes, I always assumed that this game was based on the horrible One Piece anime, so I was happily surprised to find out this was not the case. I'm not going to lie. I almost gave up on this one. It's a lot more complex than your typical puzzle affair, but after I watched a tutorial of the gameplay mechanics, I could figure out what to do. The combination of direct control over the player as a security guard and indirect control while placing and switching tenants is novel without being frustrating, and the music is passable. The game shines because of its tenants. Watching the variety of folks who come to stay in your mansion as the game progresses makes you want to keep playing just to see who will move in next. The game is a shining example of the quirky Japanese puzzle games that grace the PlayStation in numbers never seen before or since. I'm a huge fan of this genre, and we'll be returning to this title again. So there you go. Very popular with the boat. Did you get did you see the eBay or get any other reviews on this? Any of that stuff?
I'll be completely honest, Aaron. I didn't think to look it up on eBay, but I will do so right now using the power of the internet.
I wonder how this sold, and I never understood why they named it One Piece Mansion. Like, does that have? I wonder if there's some sort of something lost in translation on that, because I found that an odd choice, especially given the anime, which I know was around back when this was released. So, what do you got?
This can be had right now for the low price of $12. And if you're in Japan looking for a copy of it, you can get it as cheap as $5. So not an expensive game. I think for $5, I could absolutely see owning this game, just because it's
Yeah.
so unique. It is a very
And
different.
if you're looking
take
for
on puzzle
something
games.
outside the box, certainly I think One Piece would not be your worst choice. If you feel like you're really trying to learn something. Something else that's outside the box, my friend, and you know what I'm talking about. It's the freaking wheel. Let's get it done here.
You can't box
No, you
up the wheel.
cannot.
It's impossible.
Here we go. So, this week, we have added as our retro rewind piece the 32X. That's right. And as our new piece, we have added the Timex Sinclair 1000. This was the UK's gift to America, a gift we squandered horribly, but because it was stupidly done. So let's spin this sucker and see what we get. Here we go. And here is your winner. We have, what do we got? Steering wheel games. Steering wheel games.
Oh!
Britt, do you want to explain the
Alrighty.
rules of steering wheel games?
This has to be a game that is solely controlled with a steering wheel. Of course, pedals and shifters are
Okay.
allowed. That does not mean that it has to be a driving game. There are steering wheel yokes count as
Okay,
steering
that was
wheels.
my next question. Very good. So,
Yes.
and we're not limited to the arcade on this as well, correct?
That
So
that
this is a
correct.
real.
But it has to be something that plays with a steering
This is
wheel.
a wide open category then. Well, that should be interesting to see what gets picked. Hey, I want to thank everyone for turning up today. We had a good crowd today in the old chat room, Brent. A lot of people in here. One of our bigger gatherings. We appreciate you guys for popping around to check out our PlayStation coverage. Brent, do you have any as we close the door here on episode 150, the big 150? Do you have any parting thoughts that you'd like to share before we take this thing to the house?
Yes, I just want to remind everyone that starting next week, we will be choosing people for
Yes.
a giveaway. Giveaway for a lovely ARG
Higher.
lanyard, a incredible new wave coin door keychain, and then of course the big prize, the 1/6 replica of Dragon Slayer. This is mine. You can't have this one, but we've got one fresh
I
in the
see.
box.
So what
for
you're
you.
saying is, when you said that the giveaway would say sealed Dragon Slayer, you mean one that's you haven't even opened, sealed in box.
That's correct. Yes, I have one completely boxed up that
There
will be
you
going
go.
to
So
the winner.
starting, I guess next week you're gonna start getting that going.
Yes, and the way it's going to work, you do not have to be a supporter. You never have to give us money. It is open to everybody. We're going to be picking people out of our community at random throughout the next several weeks. Those names will be put on a wheel and spun, and we'll be giving away 3 prizes to 3 wheel spins at that time. We're also going to have a few competitive nature things, maybe a couple high score challenges, maybe a quiz type show. So stay tuned to ARG Presents to find out more details as the weeks go on.
There you go. Very good, Brent. Very good. Well, thanks for joining us again. I'd like to thank everyone that showed up, all our friends. And until next week, stay away from the One Piece Mansion.
Thanks for joining us today. We really hope you enjoyed the show. Hello to our YouTube subscribers and our Twitch followers. A special thank you to Duncan Styles for our vector graphics and Bartbit for an amazing closing theme. Want to help keep ARG spinning for as little as $1 a month? You can do so at our new Patreon at patreon.com/ARG Presents. Just like these fine folks: Graham W. Vetke, Rolo, Olaf Hope, Anthony Jarvis, Terry Howard, Gary Heather, John Schaller, The Slow Norris, Frodo NL, Steve Rasmussen, Bernhard Lucas, Chris Folds, Mitsuyama, Jason Warnes, Rob Flack O'Hara, Andy Craig, Dave Velociraptor, Retroalgy, Hermsky, Roushi, John Dykeman, Jerry Dennington, Z9K9, and Mr. B. Don't want to explain another credit card bill? That's okay too. You can help us out by leaving us a positive review on Spotify or Apple iTunes. Have an idea for a wheel piece? Email it to us at argpresents@mail.com. We film live every Sunday, 10 a.m. EDT on Twitch. Hope to see you there.